we go live and let Tom Keegan in, and then we'll start.
I don't see Tom Keegan. I wonder if he's in the second meeting and not this one. I did send out the both invites, so maybe he might be trying to get into the 8 o'clock meeting, which hasn't started yet. I'm guessing that's where he is waiting.
Okay, well, we're going to proceed forward.
All right.
Okay, so I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Finance and Claims Committee of the Common Council for Thursday, February 11th, beginning at 7:07 p.m. And I'd like to start with calling the roll of the Finance Committee members. Councilmember David Hooverman.
Present.
Councilmember Tom Keegan. Councilmember Nick Saccinelli.
Present.
Councilmember Diane Revelous.
Here.
Councilmember John Kides.
Here.
Councilmember George Theodorides.
Here.
And Councilmember Greg Burnett is present, so we have a quorum. Moving on to public participation. We have no written correspondence that has come in. Larry, do we have anyone that is waiting to speak from the public?
265. No, I just saw Mr. Keegan come in though.
Okay, if you can let him in.
Well, it's not an option but I can allow him to talk. Okay, he can speak, he can unmute whenever he wants, and he'll be able to speak during the meeting.
How about now, Larry? Sorry.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Good. And I see one other attendee. Is that the stenographer?
No, that's Tom Keegan.
Oh, okay. So
there's no other attendees.
all right. Chitsabe, if you could take note, I don't see a stenographer on the call. So for minutes, so we'll have to follow up on that. They'll have to use the recording. Moving on to item 4, which is the approval of the minutes from the January 14th, 2021 regular meeting. Do I have a motion on the minutes? Do I have okay. Councilmember Hooverman moves the minutes. Do we have any additions, deletions, corrections on the minutes?
Yes, Chairman Burnett, I've got something on, I believe it's on page 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th paragraph down. It starts, Mr. Hewelman confirmed. You see that?
On page 2?
Is that page 2 of the minutes, or I guess it's, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
it's page 3.
It's page 3. Sorry.
Yes.
It's page 3. If the sentence that begins, Mr. Ford's the second sentence, Mr. Ford said they and gave, I think that should be yes, and gave an overview of what they were working on.
Okay.
And that was it that I found.
Okay, great. I just had some couple of grammatical changes. On page 2 of the minutes, and I'll ask Lisa for your assistance here. The second paragraph from the bottom, it states, she said it would cause some problems because they normally file liens in March. They would have to, I'm assuming instead of play, that should be pay the tax sale by, and then it says ear. What were you trying to say there?
I think can you hear me?
Yes, so we can.
I think what I was probably trying to say is that the phrase would be play it by ear, or because of the extended grace period, we would not
Okay.
be able to file our liens in March because they have until April 1st to pay. So liens would have to be filed later than usual. And I think I was probably saying we would play it by ear.
Play the tax sale by ear. Okay, so it's correct
Yeah.
as stated. Great. And then the other correction on page 3 is just a typo on the second paragraph on the bottom. The correct spelling of abatement, ABATEMENT, as opposed to ABET. So, are there any other corrections to the minutes? Okay, hearing, seeing none. All those in favor of the minutes, you can, we'll go by hand, raising hand vote.
Yes, Tom Keegan.
Tom Keegan, Ms. Kides, and Mr. Theoretis, are you a yes? Yes, okay, great. So, yes, it is unanimous and the minutes are approved with the necessary corrections. Moving on in the agenda, items 5, 6, and 7. We'll take together the claims report first, followed by the narrative and monthly tax collectors report. Lisa, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening to everyone. With regard to the claims for this month, we do have a special request that does require a vote from the committee. And that is for a refund that is in excess of $10,000. It's a real estate account that very similar to the accounts that we spoke of last month. It was a court case that was adjudicated, and the city reached a settlement with the plaintiff. It's on your list as Indian Hill RE LLC, 284 New Canaan Avenue, and there are 2 years here. There's the 2018 and the 2019 grand lists for 69,000 change and 29,000 and change. And William Ford is on the meeting if you wished to get any more details about the nitty-gritty of this appeal. I think he would be able to answer your questions.
Hello, Bill.
Hello, sir.
Yes, do you have any additional information beyond what Lisa shared on these?
Well, I don't know who's familiar with this property. This is the former state of Connecticut property. I believe at one time was an armory. State DOT used the property a period of time. They sold it to one of our local utility contractors. Planning board actually gave a special approval for the site to be used by that entity. And it's a very difficult site to value. So when you're doing a mass appraisal, it is not as easy to come up with a value on something as unique as this site. There were a number of classrooms that were on the site that could not be used. So you have a large external and functional obsolescence on the property. So after negotiations with the property owner, their attorneys, our attorneys, we came to a settlement.
Okay, does anyone have any questions about these two claims for reimbursement? Okay, hearing, seeing none, I'll take a roll call vote on these two items. Councilmember Hooverman,
Aye.
Councilmember Keegan,
Yes.
Councilmember Satinelli,
Aye.
Councilmember Revelous,
Aye.
Councilmember Kides,
Yes, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Theodoredis,
Yes.
And myself, Greg Burnett, is a yes, so it's unanimous. So we will move these forward for full council approval at the next council meeting, which will be Tuesday, February 23rd. Now on to the narrative.
Okay, thank you. Well, the narrative reflects the end of January spreadsheet. So as of the end of January, we were at 88.39% of our levy. Since that time, I updated our figures because I was able to calculate through Tuesday of this week because we took in a lot in the first week in February. And I wanted to just see how much that was. So with the addition of collections on the current grant list through February 9th, which was Tuesday of this week, we went up from 88.39 to 95% of levy. So you see a lot of it came in at the very end between January and the end of January and February. So we took in an additional $23 million between February 1st and February 9th. A lot of that was postmarked mail and just getting caught up with where we were. In terms of other news, as you're aware, we have the extended grace period, which I alluded to when you were discussing the minutes. That's going to basically put the brakes on our normal collection enforcement activities that we undertake in the spring. So we're not able to send delinquent notices. We're not able to issue intent to lien notices or file lien continuing certificates until after April 1st. So what we're doing in the meantime is we're continuing with the current collection, and we're doing some other types of enforcement, including tax warrants on business personal property. We are working with the Department of Health, where we withhold health permits if a business establishment is more than a year past due in their taxes. So they have a list. We work closely with them on that. We do that every year. We have a wage garnishment in effect for city and Board of Ed employees who owe City of Norwalk property taxes. That is in effect at the moment. So we're trying to work on other things while we wait out this extended grace period. We're open 9 to 1 still, taking customers in our actual physical office. They come to the security desk, they check in, they present ID. They do not need an appointment. We didn't think that would work out well with our demographics. So they come with no appointment, but they do have to temperature check, present ID for contact tracing purposes, and also be wearing a mask on the nose and mouth. It's worked out very well. Everybody feels very comfortable with it. And we really appreciate the help of building management and security in managing that for us. So overall, I think considering that we're still in the middle of COVID, the fact that we're at 95% of levy on the 9th of February, I think is very good. With an eye toward the coming months, we are planning on having a tax sale. This is something I've discussed with the CFO, and he's discussed it with the administration. The date that we have tentatively set is the third Monday in July, which is July 19th. If that turns out to be an unworkable date for any reason, we'll push it further. But as of now, that is the planned date. But we won't really be doing anything with that probably for another month or so. We want to get a little more of this collection period through. This is the sale that we started working on in November of 2019. And those properties that we originally wrote to, 93 of them have already paid. And we've collected in excess of $3.5 million from those properties. And it's a good thing we had been working on that sale because I don't anticipate we would have met our budgeted collection goals without that enforcement. So we're just basically proceeding as normal, but working in split shifts and just trying to manage with all the restrictions of the pandemic. And I'd be very happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Lisa, hi, this is David Huvelman. Where does that the 95% as of the 2nd of or the 9th of February put us in comparison to last year? Or
I believe
were you
we're
able
a
to run
little
that
ahead.
number?
We're a little ahead of
We're a little
where we
ahead,
were
okay.
last year. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, but the levy is bigger too. So we're
Right.
billing
I'm
more
looking at
this year.
percentage. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very slightly ahead with that.
Yeah, I was more looking at percentages because you indicated we were down 3.62 at the end of the month. So that actually jumps us, that catches up that 3.62.
It does. It does.
Okay.
The end of
Thank you.
January.
Appreciate it.
The end of January is a tricky month because even when we're not in COVID, the last day to pay is February 1st. And I think last year, the last day to pay was actually February 3rd because the first fell on a Saturday. So much comes in at the end that doesn't get booked in January. It gets processed in February. So we never really know where we are at the end of January. If CL&P comes in on February 1st instead of January 31st, it's going to throw your percentages off. It can be something as simple as that. I hope that helps.
No,
And
yeah, it does. Thank you very much.
Lisa, you might have mentioned it, but what's the dollar amount associated with what's been collected?
Through the end of January, this spreadsheet that is before us indicates 310 million, almost 311 million. You can add another 23 million that we took in between February 1st and February 9th on the current grant list. That's what we're discussing here, the current levy, the 2019 grant list. I was curious to see what it was because I knew I would be addressing you tonight and I wanted to know. Because it's comforting to me to see that 88.39 go up to 95, but I knew the first week of February was exceptionally busy.
Great. Thank you.
Question on the tax sale, Greg, Mr. Burnett. Lisa, with the tax sale, have we added a number of new properties as well?
That's a good question, but I have not. I haven't added anything new because I wanted to see what happens with this collection period. So I'll add them after April 1st. We've been in
So
touch.
after April 1st, there will
Probably.
potentially there will be new properties, so that potential number could go up.
It could go up. The other thing that we're considering because of the pandemic is how we're going to actually physically conduct the sale. And we talked about the idea of maybe not having as big of a sale as we normally do in terms of number of properties, because the more properties we offer, the more bidders we have and the more people will be there. So we thought maybe we would do a scaled back sale, but if the city, if our discussions with the administration indicate that additional revenue is needed beyond a restricted sale, I would probably do the sale over 2 days. So we don't really know where we're going to stand. We're open to all kinds of ideas. But just so that everybody is of the understanding that there is a sale planned. I think that's the basic thing. And that's the message we've been communicating to those who are potentially involved with this, is that we do plan on having it, if not July, sometime after that. All of this is still contingent upon the state, because if the state comes down and says, like they did last year, that they want a moratorium on tax sales, then we have to pull the plug on it again. So we're waiting to see. I don't anticipate that happening, but you never know.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions related to the narrative or the monthly tax collectors report?
I also give the CFO a weekly update, and I know Henry isn't on the meeting, so maybe
He's on the meeting.
maybe he wants to speak to that.
Well, there's nothing specific to say. I think Lisa's data speaks for itself. I certainly didn't expect to be at this place with the second 60-day additional grace period. So I'm very pleased and gratified. Congratulations to Lisa and her department. But we plan to have a good year, but we prepare for the worst. And so far it's been holding up, but we know that, especially with the second spike with COVID and the economics and lockdowns, people are under pressure. So we're sensitive to that. We're grateful for the funds that have come in, and we'll be monitoring it carefully, especially in early April when the second deadline hits.
Thank you, Henry.
You're welcome.
So we will, both of these items, the narrative number, item 6 and item 7 on the agenda are for informational purposes only. So we will move forward from this point. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Everyone stay well. We'll see you next month.
Great. Thank you. That moves us to item 8, which is the update from Oak Hills, and we have Mark Gardner, who's comptroller with Oak Hills, to give us the update.
Thank you, Greg. Good evening, everyone. I got a short report tonight since we're in our off season, and as you can see, there's plenty of snow out there, which is why I've got this behind me to pretend I'm somewhere on a beach. So right now, rounds are low, as expected. Things are slow. January to February is generally where we see our lowest revenue. January revenue rounds, we had 419 rounds versus 188 budgeted and 357 from last year. So we're still slightly above, but February, as you could tell with all the snow, I'm expecting us to go on the other end of that, to be below budget and below last year. And just as a frame of reference, our August revenue rounds were 6,200. So definitely we're seeing minimal rounds now. The rest of January is still preliminary now, so I'm not really going to touch on that. The one bit of business we do have is membership sales. So for the calendar year of 2021, the season passes we've sold to date, we've sold 51 for about $104,000. Now, during our 2021 pricing analysis, I had assumed 50 passes at about 117,000, which was a gross number unadjusted for existing member proration, just meaning there's an overlapping period there. So call it 107,000. So I'm pretty happy, pretty close to the estimate and the goal. We're going to stop selling these passes at the end of February, and they've dwindled down now. So I don't expect to sell more than another 3 or 4, if that. And just as a comparison, last year when we reopened in May and we started selling, we sold 83 for about 107,000. So the percentage-wise, the dollar value is a lot higher. The other part of the memberships is our discount ID cards. So for 2021, we just sold about 140 for $17,000. It's very early. A lot of people come in to purchase this when they actually play their rounds, when they start in the spring. So and right now we have winter rates. So regardless of if you're a member or not, you're getting the same rate. So people usually don't buy until that March, April timeframe, May even, and then June. So that's where we are with that. The only other bit that I have to talk about is I know the high level budget for fiscal year 2022 was technically due last month. I worked on it. I worked with Joe Andrasco, our treasurer. It's been done and reviewed by Joe. It's in for final review by the rest of the authority that they're going to, once they review and approve, I'll send it over to you, Henry. And that's it. Not much going on. Any questions?
The only question I had, Mark, was related to the vendor for the restaurant. Any further progress on that?
Not that I know of. I'm not heavily involved in that at all. I do know that the authority members are in active negotiations, contract negotiations with it right now. That's all I really know.
Okay. Any further questions for Oak Hills? Okay, thank you, Mark. Thanks for the
Okay,
update.
thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Great. That moves us to item 9, which is 2 items, item 9A and 9B, that relate to our managed network services or our municipal area network, our MAN. And we have Karen Del Vecchio, who is the Director of IT, on to go through these 2 items. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a correction, I'm the interim IT director. Technically, I retired in October, and I'm assisting the city with transition until another IT director is in place.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that update.
You're welcome. Okay, so the municipal area network, I want to make one correction. The first paragraph, the first line, it should be in 2016, the City Library and Board of Ed jointly entered into a 5-year agreement. We issued the RFP in 2015, but did not get to contract until 2016. So the managed network is the private fiber optic network that connects all of the city schools, the central office, all of the city locations, all the fire stations, the city libraries, the public works locations, the marine base, and city hall, all of the locations. And it is the backbone over which we drive all of our data traffic, our telephone traffic, our video cameras, and all of the educational materials that flow between the schools and the central office and the schools. So it is an enabling technology for the city and, more importantly, for the Board of Education. And this is a joint project that we did with the Board of Ed and the libraries and the city back in 2016. We signed a 5-year agreement with 2 optional 2-year extensions with Advanced Corporate Networking, and this is to lease the proactively managed municipal area network. Advanced Corporate Networking won this project through a public RFP. They're a small minority business enterprise based here in Connecticut. Interestingly to note that both the library and the Board of Education portions of this project are eligible for what's called Universal Services Fund, which is, the term is E-rate. And they are eligible for 80% reimbursement for their costs of using the fiber network. That 80% number is based on the number of free and reduced lunch students within the city. So there's tremendous reimbursement for both the Board of Ed and the library. Moreover, in 2015, 2016, the city executed a memorandum of agreement with the Transit District. We allow the Transit District authorized limited access to this network, which gives them the ability to have video surveillance at Pulse Point, feed back to their facility on Wilson Avenue. And the Transit District pays the city an annual sum for its use of the network. Again, this is the backbone of communication for the city and the libraries and the Board of Ed. I must say that during the pandemic, without this technology, I don't think we could have been able to deliver the services that we've been able to deliver, certainly on the city side and certainly for the Board of Education. The vendor that we work with, Advanced Corporate Networking, has provided excellent service to us over the last 5 years. We have had 0 outages. We've had 100% uptime, no unplanned outages, no unauthorized access, no breach of any kind on this network. We have a very positive working relationship with them, both on the city side, the Board of Ed side, and the library side. So we're very happy with the service that we've received from them. So this 5-year agreement that we signed in 2016 is set to expire in 2021. So looking down the road at this expiration, the city and the Board of Education IT departments got together in November, and we looked at, what do we do? This is expiring. Do we want to extend it for 2 years or extend it for 4 years? Do we want to go out for bid? And the more we looked at this project, we realized that neither the city or the Board of Ed IT departments had the bandwidth at this point to be able to put a project like this out for bid. This is a huge project. when we initially did the installation, I think we're in contract negotiation for about 4 months, but it takes about a year just to do the make ready work, to put a network of this capacity and this complexity in place. So we knew for sure that we would not be able to meet a 2-year deadline, a 2-year extension deadline. The other thing we thought about very carefully was this a time to really dismantle a network in the middle of COVID when we're working from home and we've got distance learning going on, and then reassemble it? And we decided that that was just not prudent to do that at this time. We didn't have the staff to be able to do it, number one, and number two, there were just too many moving parts to be able to, and too many people are dependent on this network right now to make major changes like that, which could be very disruptive. So we went back to the vendor and said, what can you do for us if we sign up for 4 years? And what they did was they came back and said, we will give you a 20% reduction on the 2 new sites that you're planning to add on the city side. Those 2 sites, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, are Calf Pasture Beach and the harbor area. And those 2 sites are being funded 75% by a FEMA grant. So based on that, we ran the numbers, we spoke to the CFO about it. And at this point, we had the discussion with the ITT committee, which has representation from both the Board of Education, the city, and the library. And the view of the committee was to extend the contract, to exercise, both 2-year extensions of the agreement. Moreover, we would also extend our relationship for this network with the transit district. And again, they pay the city some money in order to be able to use this network. So those are this is the item before you, is authorizing us to exercise both 2-year extensions of this contract. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Karen. I kind of got ahead of myself, and I should have read the item first and got a motion before we got into discussion. So let me just rewind and do that, get a approval on the motion, and then if there's any questions, we can have them at that time. So authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to exercise the 2-year extension options of the agreement with consulting services by and between the City of Norwalk and Advanced Networking, Inc., data back office for managed network services related to the municipal area network project, to extend the agreement for a period of 4 years from the end of the initial term at the current monthly rates. City account noted, library account noted, and Board of Education account noted. And I'll add to that, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to extend the moratorium of agreement with the, memorandum, of agreement with the Norwalk Transit District for its use of the city municipal area network for a period of 4 years from the end of the initial term. Do we have a motion on these 2 items?
I'll move that.
Thank you, Councilmember Sacinelli. You've heard the presentation from Karen. Do we have any questions?
By exercising, Chairman Burnett,
Go ahead.
question would be, by exercising these 2-year, these 2-year options, do we put ourselves behind in anything to do with obsolescence, moving into another system or upgrading this system?
That's a great question. And to respond to your question, the answer is no. 5 years ago, when we signed this agreement, we, on the Board of Education side, because they get this tremendous reimbursement, we upgraded all of their network connections to 10 gig. And they're not quite using up all of that bandwidth yet. They've got a ways to go, let's put it that way. 10 gig is a very big pipe from one location to another. But 5 years ago, because we could, the time was right, the funding was there, we just did it.
So when we get to 4 years from now, we start renegotiating this. You don't feel that we're going to be behind by that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. And 4
All right,
years
great.
from now, we may, at that time, make the decision to go back out for bid. If there are more players in the market space that can provide this level of service at this scope for an installation of this size, this 4-year time frame will give us time to pull the RFPs together, do the market research, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, great. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
I believe Councilmember Sacchinelli, you had your hand up for a question.
Yeah, I just want, Karen, I just want to give you credit for throwing out 100% uptime into the into the world. As soon as you say that, then it's 9, then 4 nines, and then 3 nines.
Yeah, no, we honestly, it's just been tremendous. It's just rock solid. It's something we don't have to worry about, which is great, especially during the pandemic. It's like, okay, this is one thing you don't have to worry about. You have 100 other things to worry about, but this one's rock solid, so move on.
Yeah, that's really saying something.
I'd just like to add and congratulate Karen. She combined both the technical expertise as well as the business smarts. This is obviously a vendor we're very satisfied with. The timing was very awkward to go out for another bid to possibly implement this. We've had personnel changes. So deciding to continue for 4 years was a good strategic decision. And then she used the leverage to negotiate as good a business deal as could be had. So Greg, I'm glad you try to point out that she's with us, although she always objects, but very well done. Thank you, Karen.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no additional questions, I'll call for a roll call vote on item 9, which includes item 9A and item 9B. So Councilmember Hooverman,
Aye.
Councilmember Keegan,
Yes.
Councilmember Sacchinelli,
Aye.
Councilmember Revelous,
Aye.
Councilmember Kides,
Yes.
Councilmember Theodoridis,
Yes.
and Councilmember Burnett is a yes, so it's unanimous. So we will move this on to the Common Council for full approval on Tuesday, February 23rd. We now move to item 10 on the agenda, which reads as follows: the Metropolitan Area Network Extension to the Shore Area. Authorize the Mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an amendment to the agreement for consulting services by and between the City of Norwalk and Advanced Corporate Networking, Inc., DBA Data Back Office for managed network services related to the Municipal Area Network Project for managed network services related to Calf Pasture Beach and Veterans Park fiber extension for a period of 4 years from date of network acceptance, estimated to be September 30th, 2021, for a total amount not to exceed $226,368, account noted with a grant for $127,332. Another account noted for amount of $42,444, and final account noted for $56,592, months 37 through 48. Do we have a motion on this item? Councilmember Hooverman, thank you. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In April of 2020, at the height of the pandemic, the City of Norwalk applied for the 2020 Department of Homeland Security Port Security FEMA grant. And the purpose of this grant is it focuses on transportation infrastructure security and to strengthen the nation's critical infrastructure against potential terrorist attacks. This is a 75%, 25% grant, meaning that the grant provides 75% and the municipality then matches at 25%. So included in this very large request that was made, IT joined with police and fire on this, was a joint project for security camera and fiber optic network extension to the harbor area. And the purpose was to install a network of surveillance cameras in the harbor and beach areas to improve our network, our transportation infrastructure security, and enhance the protection of soft targets in crowded places. To support a network of security cameras in these areas, we would need to have a fiber network in place to support the video throughput. The only service that you can get down in the beach and Vets Park area right now is DSL service, which is slow and it's shared, meaning it's not private. We were not comfortable with that. We knew it couldn't support the camera network, and we didn't want to have to share that with a public network. In August, we were notified that the security camera and fiber optic network extension to the harbor was fully funded at that dollar amount. And we have secured the 25% cost share for the project at a BET meeting that took place in November. Getting back to the vendor we just spoke about earlier, with whom we're very satisfied and has given us 100% uptime, we worked with them to determine what it would take to extend the city's current fiber network down to these 2 points. There's very little in the way of fiber connectivity that goes into the heart of Calf. In fact, there's nothing that goes into the heart of Calf Pasture Beach, and there's nothing that goes into the center of Vets Park. And this project will bring fiber extended to those 2 locations. As I mentioned earlier in the prior discussion, we wanted to have these 2 sites added to our existing agreement and have it coterminous with our existing agreement. So if at some point in the future, 4 years from now, the city decides to put this entire network out for a bid, everything is together. They're not on different contracts, they're not at different time frames, and can be bid out all at once. We brought this to the ITT committee at its February 3rd meeting. They reviewed it at length and agreed to move forward with having a digital back office, advanced corporate networking, move forward with putting this network into place. Are there any questions about the project?
Karen, one question I had, is there any construction that they need to undertake in order to extend the fiber down to the beach, the Calf Pasture Beach and Vets Park?
Thank you for that question. You know, FEMA asked the exact same question relative to ground disturbance for any type of fiber cabling that's going in. The fiber will go aerial into calf pasture on the existing telephone poles that are there. And we're working with the taxing district and Frontier to be able to hang fiber on those poles. Getting into Vets Park presented a little bit of a challenge, but with our field walkthroughs with the vendor, we're able, and with Ken Hughes from Parks and Recreation, we're able to identify a conduit that runs under the ball field. So if you're familiar with Vets Park, there's a building kind of right smack in the middle that has the restrooms and some other things there. And I think there's a carpenter shop in there. And then there's a conduit that runs all the way under the ball field out to the street. And they were able to pass cable through there to make sure that that conduit was clear. So to answer your question, we don't have to do any construction. We're going to use existing conduit and existing poles.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Oh, I did have one other. So will this in any way enhance the experience, I'll say the virtual experience for a Norwalk resident who's at the beach or Calf Pasture Beach, or this is private? So they wouldn't be using this fiber to get a signal or anything of that nature.
That is correct. This is a private network. However, it does open up opportunities, other opportunities for the city to put other technology down at the beach or at Vets Park area. Moreover, it also allows the Board of Education, if they wish to do some type of programming in that area. They've got a marine sciences program at the Board of Ed. So I've had a conversation with them about, hey, if there were fiber down there, would you be able to bring programming right to that location? If you could access materials, let's say, that are being hosted at the central office or at Brian McMahon or at Norwalk High. And they said, yeah, actually, we probably could. So that's probably a second step. First, we want to get it installed. But to answer your question, public will not be on this network whatsoever. But from the City and Board of Education side, we may be able to further use this once it gets installed.
Great, thank you. Okay, seeing no other questions, I'll call for a roll call vote. Councilmember Hooverman,
Aye.
Councilmember Keegan,
Yes.
Councilmember Sacchinelli,
Aye.
Councilmember Revelous,
Aye.
Councilmember Kites,
Yes.
Councilmember Theodoridis,
Yes.
and Councilmember Burnett is yes, so it's unanimous. So again, Karen will bring this forward to the February 23rd council meeting for full approval.
Thank you. I'll be at the council meeting. And again, thank you for your time tonight. I'm sorry I went quickly, but I'm sensitive to the fact that you have an 8 o'clock meeting. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you, that we had plenty of time. So if you guys wanted to take a break and then come back, you had the time to do that.
We appreciate that consideration.
Thank you.
Great. That is the agenda for tonight. So motion to adjourn. Councilmember Revelous, all those in favor, show by